Okay. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming to tonight's Recreation and Amenities meeting. First item on the agenda to receive apologies for absence and acceptance of those. Do we have any?
I haven't received any apologies for absence.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 2, to receive any declarations of interest. For myself, I'd like to make a declaration of interest in item 4, as being a coach of Bigham Rugby Club. Do we have any other declarations of interest?
Mr. Chairman?
Yep, sure. Go ahead, Councillor
I'm
Stopwood.
sure our local county councillor supported the LIS scheme application if he's present, but I don't think he's actually present at the meeting as a participant. So just I don't know if this what the situation is there, but he's not saying anything, so just move on. I just like crack on if I were you, yeah.
Yeah, because fair enough. I don't think there's anything at this because there's I don't think Councillor Pudgery-Horan has any voting on this committee.
Sorry.
In anything, and also that we are only noting the decision from that, so I don't think there's going to be any implications for him on. Oh, I've just had guests wait in the lobby.
That's
I've admitted them.
Okay, cool. Right, item number 3, to sign the minutes held on the 19th of January, which we all should have had in Appendix A. Have we got any questions to do with those minutes? No. And do we have any objections for me signing those minutes? And happy for me to do so when we're able to. Yeah, got nothing from anybody on my screen. Brill. Okay, so that's carried. Item 4, to receive an update following the meetings with the rugby club on the One Hill redevelopment and agree further actions. I've just had a message, sorry, just to go off topic, from Councillor Leach saying that she can't find the link or anything. So I don't know if somebody could contact her or help her in where to find it, like in her calendar or anything like that with the link.
Okay.
Are you happy to do that, Sharon, while I share any rugby club documents?
Absolutely, I'll go off and do that.
Right. You would have as Appendix B, which everybody's been able to read, which was the notes from the subcommittee meeting with the rugby club, where we were able to discuss options that they'd gone through with their committee and their architect and such, as outlined in the document. During the meeting that we had with them, we looked at the 3 options. Option 1 being around 400k, and it was shown on the screen kind of what we would get for that money, but it was felt that it's kind of very similar to what is already in existence at Win Hill. So the other 2 options were then explained. Option 3 being the kind of the full development of 4 changing rooms, ref rooms, storage rooms, meeting room, an extended community facility with a partitioned wall, and the revamp the kitchen, toilet facilities, all that kind of thing, which was outlined before in the similar plan that we'd seen previously. And then option 2, which is all of those apart from 2 of the changing rooms and what is described as a referees changing facility, because they would need, it was said that they would need 2 referees or officials changing room facilities because of one of the kind of things that the RFU look for is segregation of changing rooms for females, and likewise would need that for players and officials. So that's why that would be. Option 2 would give the option to develop those extra changing facilities onto the front of the building at a later stage, once funding has been, or other funding options has been sought. In the document, as you'll see, it's got kind of a ballpark figure of those other 2 options, and so the option 2 being around 500k with a 5% contingency plan, and option 3 being 650k for that. The other areas that we discussed was the car park, and where that, by doing the original plan that the rugby club had for the car park of a large space, came out to be very expensive in order to achieve. This isn't included in any of the quotes for the development, but the need for a larger car park is still there. If anything, it's kind of going to grow with the interest in the mini section on a Sunday morning growing, with more children coming down to play, not just for Bingham when there's training, but also when matches are held there with visiting teams coming from around. Part of that was to look at alternative options, so either to raise it up so it's a bit more off the kind of the flood or water level and it's higher up, and then have different materials for cars to go and park on, so there isn't, to try and reduce the risk of cars getting stuck, because at the moment it's quite a big issue, and also the ground getting churned up by those. And the last one was asking the rugby club around their grass cutting needs going into the current season, or what's left from when sports are able to commence from at least March the 29th, or from what the government have outlined in their roadmap, and then going into next season as well. So if we do have a representative from the rugby club here, Mr. Packer, so if any councillors have got any further questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, as I say, there's more detail than what I've just explained on the document as Appendix B. Nothing. Councillor Stockwood, you've got your hand up, I can just see.
There we go, and sure. So the next steps of the planning application, is that correct then?
Yeah, it'll be that be looking at planning for the option 3, because of that being with everything with the changing rooms as well. So to go for that and put through for planning for that, and then of course would be to liaise with the borough council on kind of doing alterations and vary to that to go with option 2, but of course having that full planning to hopefully, once the other funding streams come available, to then do that to make it into option 2 into option 3.
Okay, thank you very much. May I inquire, is the planning application process going to begin in the next couple of weeks then? Is that or is there a time?
I think that is what they're looking at. Mr. Packer's got his hand up, so I recommend that we suspend standing orders so he's able to answer that question, please. Anybody got any objections to that, please say. Righto. Go ahead, Mr. Packer, for that question.
Okay, we've actually got a site meeting due on Thursday with the architect and the contractor and another lighting contractor as well, about various things. The intention is to the architect have had some brief conversations with the planning officer with a view to understanding the way that they want us to submit either a revision or a brand new application, and hopefully that would get running as quickly as possible. I don't think we'd meet the April planning date, but clearly if it has to go to committee, I think the planning date in May is somewhere around about the 13th of May. So we'll be looking to get things moving as quickly as to go to full planning.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any other questions from any other councillors on that? Okay, righto. Is there anything that just trying to get there isn't actually anything, is there? Just wanting to double check with the town clerk for us to make decisions on. So tonight, is it you need a recommendation on the options that we've got, that if because I'm quite happy to propose what I've outlined as as option 3 as the kind of the ultimate desire as the development, and then option 2 well actually I can't do that because I've declared an interest, but as that is that kind of what we would need from tonight to go to the next full council?
Yeah. If that is what the rugby club are pursuing, yes, it would be useful if we had a decision on which option, well, a recommendation on which option we were looking at. If the committee is happy, it has sufficient detail, but if that hasn't been thrashed out as yet, and I can see Chris has his hand up in the air, so.
I'm allowed to talk. Yeah. One of the things that came out of the meeting that Gareth, I don't know whether he alluded to, is that we are looking to get detailed costings put together now. So we would want to be having at least another working group meeting before the next full council meeting, which I think is 9th, 11th of May, something like that, I think. But obviously what we will be wanting is for the rec meeting to at least be supporting the way that we're moving forward now. So that would give us sort of the green light to at least incur more expenditure and more time investment into the project.
I would ask, do the committee feel as though they have sufficient detail to make a recommendation at this stage?
I don't think you've got enough information to make the full recommendation, because we've not given you the full costings, but I want an understanding that we are going down the lines and have the support for the council for the options that Gareth has outlined. If you can word that into a suitable resolution.
So the preference at the moment is to go to planning with option 3, and in the immediate term be working to build option 2. Yeah,
subject to a cost that we're trying to get it into at 500k. That the rugby club are committed to doing the car park, hopefully from our own resources, plus any funding that we can at least try to get hold of, and that the 3rd and 4th changing rooms are an aspiration at this stage. So our clear focus at the moment is around extending the facilities of a community building, not necessarily the rugby club. As you'll see in the notes, it expands on all the community facilities down there. It gives us 2 new changing rooms, but it doesn't give us extra changing rooms as such. So all the facilities down there are focused on the community.
Is the committee too happy as that as their preference, or do they have any further questions that they wish to ask and clarifications?
Councillor Shelton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My thought on this is that because we haven't got the full information, what we could say is that in principle we are in favour of option 3. But obviously you can't say that, give a categorical one until we have the full information. But in principle, we are happy with option 3.
Okay.
My comment.
Councillor Stockwood, your hand. Is it up?
It's always the case with I worry that in principle decisions people might change their minds later. So I think we need to perhaps be a bit more positive that we are supportive of a planning application for option 3, on the understanding that it includes elements that we're not looking to fund in the immediate. As described, it's an aspirational of a full build, and that we support the working group continuing to develop the detail of option 2, specifically around costings of how much it will cost, making sure that any unspent contingency comes back to the council, and being very clear about the benefits to the community that will be delivered. And we also encourage, the working group needs to look at, I think, the commitments that the rugby club are making with regards to pursuing the car parking and lighting projects. Because I do think I would be concerned if having more community facility, but there's the car parking is a separate schedule of delivery. So I think thank you very much. We thank the rugby club for the investigation of the options of the way forward for this project, and we can, as a committee, I put it that we thank the working group for the recommendations. We support further work to facilitate a programme to deliver option 2. That part of that will be putting in planning application for option 3, on the understanding that option 2 is what will be built within the immediate future, and that further works are done to specify the costs, specify how contingency will be addressed through the build, and to clarify the rugby club's commitments in terms of ensuring that the building is available for community use, the car parking is going to meet needs, and the lighting project is going to be done. I put that on the table as a series of items of a recommendation, and ask that future discussion within this item is either amending or by adding or those set of items. If I have a seconder, of course. Thank you.
Does Councillor Stockwood have a seconder on that from the committee? So, Councillor Stockwood seconding. Councillor Perdue-Horn, you got your hand up. Just to make a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a non-voting observer tonight, in actual fact, Councillor Stockwood has basically said everything that I would have said, so I won't prolong it. So just to clarify, the working group felt very much that option 3, the top ambitious optimum option, is approved in principle, but the outside funding landscape has changed completely, and we've probably not seen yet how it's going to sort itself out in the next few years. So we're obviously not going to get any funding from any sports bodies for this, and it would make sense for Bingham Town Council, if they're going to change the rugby club to bring in more community facilities, let's do it now, not end up with a building almost exactly the same as the current one. The public really would ask us questions on that one, I think. So we have to sort of future-proof it for future generations with more community facilities. That's option 2. That's the one we go for now. Thank you.
So we've had an outline from Councillor Stockwood, seconded by Councillor Shelton. Do we have any? Sorry, Councillor Stockwood, you stand up.
Just a point that if there are only 3 of us are voting, this is really going to come down to whether Monica supports us or not. Otherwise, the debate's not going anywhere. So perhaps we would best talk to Monica about. I don't know if you're okay about that. Sorry. Okay, fine.
Yeah, we are up to. Don't worry, I've made sure we are up to full capacity now on the committee.
Sorry. Oh, hey.
It's okay.
Yes, apologies for my lateness. I've been sat quietly for the last 20 minutes or so.
Right, sorry.
Evening, Paul.
Hello all.
So
I should go back to being quiet.
If we haven't got any objections to that or abstentions, please let me know now on that proposal from Councillor Stockwood. No, righto.
You.
Okay. Right. I don't think I've said about reinstating standing orders, so apologies for that, which would like to do. And I don't think there's anything more that for item number 4 on that.
Yeah.
No, so we're happy to progress as outlined in the discussion. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Packer. And I see we've been joined by Mr. Perry, so thank you very much for coming onto the meeting tonight. Right, I'll move on to item number 5 to receive an update on meetings with Bingham Town Sports Club and agree further actions. You'll see in your packs that you've had a document outlining what was discussed during the meeting on, I think it was the 14th of January, which wasn't able to be written up for the last recreation meeting, which outlined what was discussed, which at the last recreation meeting was given of again an outline which was discussed of them a 3G pitch on there, and improvement to cricket facilities, bat nets, and also with potential looking at extra space for extra pitch and football pitches. We have since had another meeting which was held with them on Thursday the 18th of February, but that was kind of going with what the plans that Bingham Town Sports Club have, and that was including with Notts FA and the Football Foundation representatives to outline the plans for the site, and for them to ask any questions on that. So as I say again, Appendix C had the report, so I won't go through it verbatim or anything like that. Has anybody got any questions to do with the development on Butfield? Councillor Stockwood?
Just to say to support your comments, this is another project that needs to be developed up into a concrete proposal as to what's being asked in terms of costs, what the town council actual contribution would be if we are to make a contribution, and what facilities will be delivered if that goes ahead. So we're having a series of meetings with the sports club to talk through how we can deliver more sports pitches, increase in sports facilities, just as increasing community facilities is something from the community-led plan, and we're doing that on the west side by improving Win Hill. We've got the community hall coming with the leisure centre, which will be a big new room, and another thing that was talked about and was in the community-led plan was the increase in sports facilities. And it is identified that within this area We are short. Well, there is a need for additional cricket. Is it square, pitch, circle, oval? One of them. Another place where cricket things can be played. And we talked before about how our cricket team goes towards Grantham to play, and so an increase in sports pitches, both all weather and grass, would be beneficial and deliver what's been identified as through community requests from the community-led plan and through the I think it's there's an independent study somewhere of sports pitch requirements across Rushcliffe, and I think there were identified needs in this area that looking to the future, the actual number of pitches is less than what's expected to be needed. So this project, as we build it up, will perhaps address some of that detail. So unfortunately, it's another working group working with an outside body to work up a proposal at this point in time, but we hope to concrete up the details so that everybody's clear exactly what the project is, what's being asked of us, and what Bingham people will get from it. And we look forward to more detail arriving in the future.
Thank you. I don't think has anybody else got any comments or questions or anything that they would like to make? No, I don't think there's anything from the meeting that was held on the 18th of Feb as recommendations that have got to be brought to this committee, because the first one that we had that came to the last rec meeting of kind of asking about the extra land and I think that was the only requirement, just double checking for us as a council to pursue. So I don't think there's anything else. Tasks from there. Just if the town clerk can just confirm for me.
No, Councillor Williams, yeah, absolutely right. I think what we're waiting for to give us more information is a costing breakdown for the different phases and how potentially what funding will be available from partners so that the council can then evaluate what it needs to.
And it's just to let the council know that the partners that Bingham Town Sports Club have got is Notts FA, the Football Foundation, and the ECB, based with them at Trent Bridge. I don't know if it's Nottinghamshire Cricket Club, but it's or how it works with the cricket. But they have had meetings on the cricket side of the development with the ECB to gain funding from there. And I know we were invited to one of those with them, and that they have kind of said that Bingham as a Bingham cricket club, with the way it's expanded recently, and that has ticked a lot of boxes. So there's a lot of promise that they're very keen to see this kind of development and expansion and sporting facility in Bingham for cricket. Right, if there's okay, I don't think there's anything out to go on to item 6. To consider any matters in relation to the play parks and agree further actions. We've got about Cogley Lane to agree any actions in relation to the redevelopment of the play area, and to note Nottinghamshire County Council Local Improvement Scheme, the LIS decision, which we've all had as an appendices of 6A, so I recommend that we just note that, which is a bit unfortunate, but going on with the redevelopment that we have been in contact with the play park consultant and managing to speak to him, and sadly, due to changing circumstances for him, he's not able to kind of help us beyond the commitment that he had made already to the council. And also it was discussed with him where we wish to have kind of a more project management kind of role and relationship for this because of its sensitive nature, being on the land that it's on, and all the other areas that we've got to do with, like historic England and that. So he's willing to pass over any of the information and that he's done, and to do like a handover like that, and then to work with officers in the office in the town council to come up with companies to approach for us to get like a project management kind of way forward for us, because it was outlined to him that like Orchard Park, Wychwood Road, is that when it comes to actually building the park, the amount of work that is needed is having a project manager on site to oversee everything and any kind of issues that get brought up with the actual development, because of course, like anything, once shovels go into the ground, you then try and find what's underneath, like what we had with Wychwood, with the drainage issue that was brought up. So anything like that, they're able to be addressed and brought back to the council, and also that person would know the development and the process that we've gone through as a council and the design, and that ultimately as a council would decide on, that I feel is the best approach for us, due to the sensitive nature of the site of Cogley Lane. So propose that we kind of liaise with Mr. Sycamore, and I thank him for all of his efforts that he's done on Cogley Lane, but just also for all of his service and working with the town council to deliver Orchard Park and Wychwood Road, which I think everybody hopefully will agree with me, to outstanding play areas for the community, and have been a vast improvement on what was previously, and certainly whenever I've visited them, the sites, there's always somebody there using them, and playing on them and positive, and I think they're two developments that as a town we can feel proud of having these new bright play areas, that kind of Bingham Community Play Parks set out with developing and looking into the need that ultimately we've been able to deliver on 2 of them. So as I say, I recommend that we look at getting a partner, a project management type company or person, in order to assist with the funding streams for whatever they may look like. Of course, with the way that the financial world and the world is at the moment, and then have that as well for them to be on board with the actual development of the play area. Town Clerk, you've got your hand up.
Yes, all I was going to add was just ask for the committee's guidance in terms of the prioritisation of this project, given we need to attract funding, as to where we fit that in. And I'm asking that question specifically at the moment in regard to drawing up a spec to potentially identify a play park consultant and project management resource as well, and just factoring that in. So I wanted to steer from committee if that was possible, please.
Councillor Mossor, you got your hand up.
Oh, thank you very much. Using the technology there for the meeting. On the Cogley Lane development priority, I mean, I would dearly love us to get another park underway.
Yeah.
But the thing with Cogley is, as well as its land issues, it has been raised on behalf of some local residents, and funnily enough, it's not too dissimilar from the email or the contact form he received around Wychwood and the traffic. So what's been raised by a local resident and has said that many of the local residents feel the same, is that given that Cogley Lane's on the throughput, on the thoroughfare to the Carnarvon School, that increased traffic parking around the park, especially with in the summer, people going to pick the kids up from school, dropping them off at the park, clogging up the roads. That was seen as very undesirable, and that's probably a problem we've not really faced with the two parks we've done so far. So, as I said, as much as I would like to get a third park underway, I think there's probably a bit of feasibility stuff that we need to do with attracting more traffic, footfall, popularity, attention to that area before we get into the detailed specification of the park and kick all that off again. Because, for example, if we were to commission, I think it's the county on a traffic survey, or to look at the roads and potential impact of X amount more cars, that might tell us that the project has a whole load more barriers in the way of getting it done, other than spades into ground and whatever that consecrated land or whatever the title is that escapes me now. So I think we need to walk before we can run with this one, rather than kind of going straight into it. I think there's going to be more to it, and it might well turn out not to be feasible. Is my worry, but I think we should establish that really early on.
Right. So in terms of a recommendation, is counselling advised that we look into the traffic situation?
Yeah, that's the proposal. Unless anyone else, John Lewis has put his hand up using the technology.
I think that's a starting kind of thing. Is like
Sorry.
that? Is the traffic element as what been said, and then going on that is to kind of is to get a handover from Lee Sycamore, even if it's just at least to the officers of the council, of that information that he's had and guidance from him. Councillor Lewis.
Yeah, I was just going to say I'm technically not here, as you know, but it is actually, obviously, I was on the Play Parks project, and I did look into this quite extensively. It is what's called a designated site of special archaeological interest, and that does imply certain permissions need to be obtained, which are now policed by Heritage England, as Paul has rightly said. So there is a degree of negotiation that has to be undertaken, and there is some evidence that the supposed Saxon or medieval village settlement, which was supposed to be underneath the end of Cogley Lane, the close end, isn't actually there. But so there is quite a lot of talking to be done. But I'm not involved. I just thought it would be helpful to say what obstacles were in the way, and also to say that the current play equipment, what as I believe termed as the footprint, only occupies approximately 10% of the total piece of land that is in fact let to the town council by the Diocese of Southall. So I hope that was helpful.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lewis. Councillor Leach, you got your hand up?
Thank you, Gareth. Just to say that, as Paul's just pointed out, up near Carnarvon School, there's an awful lot of traffic. And as Paul says, we really need to get that sorted before we think any further. And in fact, I agree with him.
Yeah.
Stunned
Okay.
silence. Someone agreed with me.
So,
I don't think
so
anybody-
we've got as a which side? Councillor Stockwood, you got your hand up.
I'm happy to agree with Councillor Mosfer, although I've had a few network issues, but I'm sure I got the gist of it. I don't think we'll ever completely solve the parking problems outside of local schools. I think if we look across the whole county and counties, that parking problems outside of schools continue. I think that needs to be addressed through CCTV. There is a play area in near Gamston. It's the one play area it's on the road through. What they did was they put in at the side of the road an area of a couple of parking spaces. So they cut into the side of the road, put in a couple of parking spaces. So there may be some experience there of what needs to be done to provide dropping off facilities, which appears to be what's proposed with regards to this parking solution. I think there'll always be vehicle movements up and down the road, and there'll always be people going to school. What we can look at perhaps is what we can do to mitigate any parking outside this facility by whether there's a scheme of allowing vehicles to on-site parking, or on the road side of the road parking, which is like this facility at Gamston. I don't know if people are familiar with that. So there's looking at the positive way forward, there could be perhaps some additional element to the scheme which helps to mitigate parking problems outside. There could be perhaps white lined H bars that the county council could put in certain locations if it was fear of obstructing a junction, perhaps, or these options around that. So in clarifying what the traffic impacts might be, I think it's more about the fear of people parking up and blocking traffic. Is that the understanding? It seems to be a bit and so if you could perhaps work around those options in terms of what we can do to mitigate any traffic problems, rather than wait until traffic stops being a problem. I think we could at least look at some options for the way forward. So I welcome the steps that are being taken. I do note that in the budget we're aware of the letter of the unfortunate situation that so many grant funding schemes at the moment are COVID related, and we've made additional facility within the budget to help provide funds that will facilitate moving the way forward. So if Councillor Mosfer doesn't have a seconder for his solution for design of the way forward, then I'm happy to second it. And
I'll second it if you like, John.
I think I'm yeah.
Councillor Stockwood
okay.
just second it.
Okay.
Sorry,
right.
Councillor Heath.
Yeah.
Sorry. Councillor Pridgehoran, you got your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just wondering, I can't remember now whether it's a NEEP or a LEAP, but the purpose of Cogley Lane Park is to serve the immediate community. It's not a destination park as such. And I do get that when we have a park that's brand new or refurbished, whatever, it does have a spike in popularity, of course. We've seen that in the past. But I wonder, would this committee benefit from the views of Rushcliffe Borough Council, who have got extensive experience in providing parks? I think we've still got some skills in that department. I don't think anyone's left, and I'm sure this is a particular issue that probably many communities have faced. And I'm just wondering, I totally get the concerns about, traffic, but I think we have to balance that as well, of course, with people in that area who have seen us refurbish 2 other parks, and they're expecting Cogley Lane to be looked at. So we've got to be careful.
I think you are correct, Bridget, is that with this is not meant to be a destination park. But again, I think because of Wychwood opening up during the current times that we're in, people have kind of looked to Wychwood as a nearby one to kind of drive to and to go and visit, whereas perhaps before they might have gone to a destination park further afield. But current guidelines is to kind of stay in your local area. We had it as well with when Orchard, there was the spike that had gone up there with people visiting and everything, because it had the new play equipment. And you're quite right that when a new park opens, everybody in the local area wants to go and play on it to see what it's like. Of course, this kind of road is a very major kind of, let's say, trunk road or access road to that side of Bingham that we do have to be careful with the parking and the people going. So I think there is kind of I support Councillor Mosca's recommendation of doing a study on the traffic and the parking around there, and then kind of looking at with what solutions there is, because of course we wouldn't want people parking right outside the entrance to the park where it would block off the view of motorists going past it, and heaven forbid somebody step out from the entrance of the park leaving and something happens because of the proximity of it. So I think this kind of needs to be done, and I think also with that and the sensitive nature of the land as outlined by Councillor Lewis, as much as we would want to rush into it, we need to make sure that we get everything lined up and properly assessed on this park before diggers and spades go in the ground, we're being mindful of its location in all aspects. Councillor Mosfer, you've got your hand up. I've seen go up again.
Yes, thank you. It was just to take Councillor Purdy-Horan up on his offer, potentially, if such expertise still exists, within Rushcliffe, rather than us ordering a traffic study through the county council, which, if we want it full blown, there's probably going to be a cost. There's probably going to be a lead time. We might be waiting ages for it. If there's something a bit more practical we can do, just to understand a bit more about these concerns that have been raised, because this is what at least anecdotally, some of the local residents are going to come back with, then I think we should probably explore that route first, on a bit more of a practical rather than a formal basis. So can I change your recommendation? Subject to.
I think your recommendation is kind of doing that, but it's kind of who we approach as a council you've changed. So I don't know if it needs to be in the recommendation of who we approach to do the study.
Yeah.
But kind of seeking advice on it.
Fine. I'll defer to the town clerk.
Is that okay?
Let's
what I would suggest is, in terms of the recommendation, that we bring back options with regard to taking traffic forward. That sounds wrong in regard to traffic. We come back to the committee with options as to how we potentially look at potential traffic solutions for the site before we proceed with the actual planning of the play park refurbishment.
Well, would it be possible to kind of approach the Borough Council to see what their advice would be, and if we need to go down the route of getting it, and how much of a study then to who to go to, and how much of a study needs to be
Absolutely.
done. I think in that that way round for it. So we've got then just try and recap on the way forward that's been presented is to is I think is to thank Mr. Sycamore for all his efforts and working with us on this park in particular that we're talking about, but also the two of Wychwood and Orchard, and then go about getting a handover from himself with the work that he's done in, I think it's phase 1 that he got up to for Cogley Lane, and to find out where the information that he's got in order to then liaise with him if he can give us some recommendations or give us some companies to or people to approach in order to take this project management of Cogley Lane forward. Because again, I don't know if it's something on the local government kind of portal to go for on that, if it's an area. So to find out, and then also to kind of liaise with or to ask at the borough about the issues that has been raised by Councillor Mosfer, and then kind of see what their advice is, if they do have any. Of course, if they actually come back and go, no, we're not sure, we don't know, then it might be that we'd have to go to highways or whoever and speak to the county on that aspect. So that's kind of been, I think, by proposed. Is that what you propose, Councillor Mosfer? Nod. Yeah, and Councillor Stockwood seconded. Councillor Pridgeon, I think have you got a legacy hand still raised?
A legacy hand
from when you last spoke.
Right,
thank you. Is anything? If anybody's against or wishing to abstain from that, please let me know. No, so that's what we've got as a recommendation. Right. Item 7, to consider matters in relation to team provision and agree further actions. Do you have anything to update the committee on, Councillor Leach?
Yeah, just that my usual emailing is just to various people like Barrett's and David Wilson and Wimpy, and also to Mr. Paddy Tippin. It's just a case of waiting to hear replies back. And with COVID, it looks like it's not important in their views, so I'll be emailing a few more of them back again. Can I just say that's all I've got to say, but Mr. Lewis might have something more. I don't know.
Yes, if I can just trespass on your time just a little bit. Obviously, I do have a non-pecuniary interest in it, in team provision, as a director of Bombers Skateboarding CIC, as does Councillor Leach, but I don't think I have to declare that because I'm not actually in the meeting. That being that as it may, I was particularly interested in the potential availability of a piece of land off Chapel Lane, right next to the railway line, or so I think, which I've recently walked. You can't actually get onto it, but if it's where I think it is, then it's said to be a quarter of an hectare, and there's said to be various people interested in it. I thought I'd just reiterate what Bombers is. It's community interest company. It's a not-for-profit thing. It's got 122 ordinary members, and it's got 6 directors, which include Councillor Leach, myself, and my wife, Leela Kirkham, who's the financial secretary, and 2 other directors.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry.
Yes, Councillor
No.
Pridgehoran.
Yeah.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this is not a meeting for a pitch.
No, I'm not suggesting it is.
We don't wish to give anyone special advantages by using meetings and their positions as councillors. There will be plenty of time. Every dog on the streets will know when it's the right time.
I have no intention of
to
trying
make our pitches. At the moment,
Excuse me, Councillor Lewis. Can we let Councillor
Lewis
finish what he is saying, please?
Yes, I think that would be polite, Councillor Purdue-Horan. I'm simply.
No, I just said, sorry, that Councillor Purdue-Horan has made a point of order. Please, can you let him finish without interrupting him of what his point of order is, please?
Right.
So, Mr. Chairman, not to prolong matters any, I think I've made my point. There is plenty of time for people to make their case.
Right. Thank you very much.
Right.
Okay,
well,
I think what it is we do know, the committee does know what Bombers is as an organisation. We've had that information previously from Councillor Leach. And we do know like kind of the organisation, and I think in previous council meetings you have outlined from when you've done grant applications and that to the committee, to the council. So we are aware, and I thank you for letting us know that you are interested in the land that's been offered up or kind of highlighted in previous meetings on Chapel Lane as part of the new development for the community. And all I can stress from the previous meetings is, and to any other organisations that might be interested in that land, it is to contact the town office for kind of a coordinated approach where funds have been set aside in the budget in order to kind of to go appoint an architect to look at all the community needs for that site, and for a joint kind of community application to go ahead for it, rather than having a lot of community groups go off and approach Barratt's or whoever it will be offering up the land. Councillor Leach, you've got your hand up. Sorry.
Yes, please. I think what John was actually trying to say was the fact is we know there's a lot of people. Thank you, Francis, for the smile. We do know there's a lot of people interested, and we wouldn't want to be going off on our own. We were maybe hoping that ourselves, the scouts, the guides, whoever, we can all get together and approach the council rather than do it individually. And I think you'll find that's what John was trying to specify. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Indeed it was, Councillor Leach, and I think it was rather inappropriate to accuse me of trying to strong arm the council, and also to say that we, the directors, we'd be very happy to participate in a working party if one was to be formed, but we're not saying that we are entitled to anything like that. We're just saying that we really would like to help bring this project to fruition. That's it.
Thank you very much. Town Clerk, you've got your hand raised.
Sorry, two short points, if I may. Councillor Leach, am I writing you down as a declaration of interest for Bombers? And my second point is in regard to the community land. I was asked if I would get the information up onto the website so that community groups could put an approach into the town council. I don't have the information that I require as yet from Rushcliffe. I'm waiting for Rushcliffe to come back to me so I can put the details out there on the website so that community groups can step forward and make their interest known. Once I have that information, I will get it on the website accordingly.
Thank you, Sharon.
And can I stress that I think the best approach is for community groups to approach the town council, and the town council to collate who those community groups are, in order to, like what you've described as Councillor Lewis, a working group of whatever for people who are interested in having something to meet their needs on that land, and rather than community groups around the town contacting each other and going, because then there might be some that have gone directly to the town council and approach the town council organisation, and if we then don't know who is needing it, and in order to capture the needs of the community, then it could be a disjointed application going towards this community land, which is another great opportunity for this town going forward. So
yeah,
unless it's something about that, I think if it's something about the kind of the team provision, I'm not wanting to. This item isn't about the community land kind of and around the discussions around that, because we don't actually have anything else. So unless kind of the points that you're wanting to make is about what the team provision is about.
No, I think all I'd like to say is that as and when the information becomes available, as and when an invitation is made to local community groups to express interest, then we will be filling in the necessary forms and expressing an interest. And perhaps it's right to say that in those circumstances, if we did express an interest, I don't think it would be appropriate for us also to serve on a working group when we'll be obviously looking to promote our own project. So there's no ulterior motive here, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Leach.
Just the point, which is very off-putting for me, when someone sits there and plays an imaginary violin when someone's talking. I find that very off-putting and very impolite, and I would appreciate it didn't happen again, thank you. Or I will sign out of the meeting and I will go, because it's upset me and I've got enough on my plate at the moment at home, and I don't want that happening again, please.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Councillor Leach. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to.
Right. Move on to item number 8, to receive an update in relation to Lowndes grounds maintenance equipment review, and to recommend the trade-in of equipment, including removal from the asset register. Again, in our packs, we would have an appendices outlined a quotation that has come from the current the company that the council has the current ride-on mower, and that comes to a total for the items listed of 19,250. There has been a development today where the company that was approached or gave a quotation in September last year that's outlined there has come back after seeing pictures that they have now come back with a quote of 20,000 for the same items. Deputy Clerk, you've got your hand up, and I probably said something wrong.
No, it's fine. It's just to provide a bit of clarity. So the quote that we got last year, the lower quote, is from a company that was quoting to provide us equipment, and they got the price underwritten, obviously out of courtesy and time's moved on, we went back to see if their offer remained the same at the 18,000. It's on your paperwork, the lower amount, actually they was in direct contact with the company that underwrote those trade-in prices for them, who hadn't seen images and who want to purchase direct from us, because obviously we're not dealing with the company for new equipment at the moment. So the company that was interested in underwriting that equipment wants to offer direct, and after seeing the images and receiving all the details and the hours, etc., that the equipment's done, as Councillor Williams has rightly said, they've offered 20,000 plus VAT for the equipment today.
Does anybody have any questions? What I suggest as a recommendation is for authority to myself to work alongside with the town clerk to pursue the figure of the 20,000, but should anything kind of fall through with that, which I'm sure envisages that there isn't, that if somebody today's gone to the trouble of getting a quote in before this meeting, they're pretty keen, is then to pursue this other quotation of 19,250. So to open it up to comments. Sorry, Chris, you got Mr. Packard. Have you got your hand up for something? Sorry.
A question about is the Mega Slit and the Trimax machine, are they unusable?
Sorry. Right. Okay. I'll suspend
would you like me to
standing
answer
orders for that to be answered then.
The Trimax is the large mower that is towed behind the tractor, Chris, which is in full operation, but obviously needs a large tractor to pull. I think from our discussions so far, the ride-on mower was creating better results for you than that equipment was.
So, sorry, I meant to ask, the Ransoms mower, which is like more like a big sit-on.
Yes.
Is that unusable?
It needs a repair.
Yeah.
It's fixable, but it does need a repair.
It's just to let the committee,
which the people who have offered us, both companies, are aware of the repair that it needs.
And similarly with that Mega Slit, because I mean that we've got a pedestrian slitter, which is obviously a pain in the backside because we have to push it. But that Mega Slit would have been ideal, but I appreciate that's got to be towed by a tractor as well.
Correct.
If that needs repair as well, then okay, that's fine.
Just to give the rest of the committee some background as to what I've allowed or requested the standing orders to be suspended, is because a lot of this equipment is used at the Windhill site, which of course Mr. Packer is involved in, so he kind of would be asking on with the maintenance on that. So it's just to give some for why the question has come from Mr. Packer and might have allowed it. Councillor Stockwood, did you reinstate standing orders? Sorry, after that question. Councillor Stockwood, did you have your hand up, wanting to ask something on this?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just noted that Mr. Packer had his hand up, and I was just going to bring it to your attention. We support getting best value from whatever it is that's being sold. So if there's this, it sounds like there's a bidding war for the equipment, but the principle of selling equipment we're not using or is not fit for our purposes, plus removing it from the asset register, it seems to be a sound idea to me, and getting best value for it. I look forward to hearing how that what transpires. Thank you very much.
So I've propose that way forward. Can I have a seconder?
I'm happy to second that.
Thank you, Councillor Money. Is anybody against or abstaining from that? No. Righto, we've got that way forward. Righto. Item number 9, to receive an update on the seasonal grounds worker. Over to you, Sharon, for it.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Williams. Just to let everybody know that our seasonal ground worker is set to rejoin us in April. So that's good news.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much for the update on that. Item 10, to receive recommendations on the types of tree for the memorial tree at the cemetery. As you recall from the last meeting that we agreed about a memorial tree to go in there, and that the Borough Council officers at the Borough Council would be consulted or asked about kind of an appropriate tree given its location and sensitive nature. And I think with our we've had 2 quotation or 2 recommendations from Mr. Pettit, and part of the recommendations that we had was to agree with the applicant or the resident who about with regards to this tree, about the cost. And from what I can from these 2, I think it's kind of best for us to, unless anybody feels otherwise, is to liaise, to speak to the family about what has been suggested from the officer at the Borough Council, and for them to see, because of one of the recommendation was for them with the cost of the tree. Town Clerk, you've got your hand up.
Sorry, it was just to clarify, Councillor Williams, that the recommendations from the tree officer I sent through to you, but for those of a horticultural bent, they are Epirus cal chanticler. I'll spell that. That's CHANTICLEER, and then a Primus Pandora. So they're the 2 options that have been given by the tree officer, appropriate to the site. They're quite a compact tree, so we can ask the family involved if they have a preference, but that's the recommendation that's come through from the tree officers.
Councillor Leach, you've got your hand up.
For those of us with a horticultural bent, which I'm one of them, can I have the name of the trees in English, please? Not Latin.
No, because they're the only.
They are.
That's the only names we've got.
Yeah, we can send.
I'll have to look in my tree book then.
I will send the link with the names in, and you can click through to have a look at them.
Cheers, thanks, Sharon.
I recommend on this is to liaise with the family on these 2 trees, and for which one they wish to pursue in order to be planted at the cemetery. So if I
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Stockwood. Anybody abstain or against that, please indicate now. No. Righto. Number 11, to receive any correspondence. Please correct me, Sharon, unless I'm wrong. We would have 2 correspondents. Yeah. Or is it just the 1? 2. Right. The first one that we would all have in our packs is, and it was really alluded on by Councillor Mosford earlier, about the traffic and parking around Wychwood Road play area, and concerns from a local resident about that. which I think has been referred to the local county council and sent to them as to what can be done in that immediate area. Of course, one of the recommendations and resolutions from this council was about having a kind of a knee-high wall as part of the security and that around the Wychwood area, and then that would also go in line with the rock snake that's around Wychwood. So I think that it's to find out what the highways have come back with, and what kind of recommendations and that they can look at, and if needs be is to kind of highlight this. And has this also been sent to the local county councillor for Bingham West as well as this to make him aware? Is it?
No, I don't believe so. So we'll get that to him.
Yeah, because I think it's it will be better as well, because he has, as what people might see, seen in the local area, that he has been looking around kind of what's been happening on Carnarvon Place and that kind of thing. So I think it only help him with the kind of the traffic management around his ward in Bingham, with liaising with with the highways department, in particular as we've got that new play area. Anything from the committee on that? Anything more? No.
I've nothing to add. No.
No. Councillor Stockwood, have you got your hand up? Yep.
Can you just confirm, is our project for a fence? A knee-high fence?
Yeah.
Or are we now looking at different options, but to listen to what highways say? Is that what's happening?
Well, that was part of the previous recommendation.
Okay.
As part, in order to go alongside the rock snake, but of course, if highways come back with something more that needs to be done, then yeah. So I think we could kind of hold off until we find out what recommendations to do around that site, and then to see actually if highways agree with what we're proposing on that. But I think also is kind of hoping about that there's signage and that for it to indicate that the play area is in close proximity to the road and that type of thing, to make motorists aware that going around there is a play park that's nearby. Because of course there is like kind of as you're driving past, it's not until you're on top of the play area that you actually then see it with driving along. But with the speeding is I think it's part of a wider issue that's often been expressed in the town.
Although ironically, the parking of additional cars on both sides of the road might alleviate some of the speeding.
True.
Correct. It is
So
also that is kind of considered as a kind of a natural speed deterrent as well. But I think it's I think it needs to be looked at properly because of the popularity of this park and again the use of the road on the estate.
There is another way, Gareth.
Yep.
Try speed bumps, calming bumps. You know those things they put in the road that go, and you have to slow down to go over them.
Well, that would be part of asking highways on what they think is suitable for the area. But don't forget, it is also a bus route, and that also has implications on what speeding calm measures can be put in. Because it's the same bus route as Carnarvon Place as well. Or one of the bus routes. So it's part of kind of the same kind of issues in a sense with that. And the second correspondence that we've got was a lady who approached about setting up a boot camp on Cogley Lane play area. Yeah, kind of a key, like a fitness kind of exercise camp on there.
You mean the salt course?
Well, I don't think actually using the play equipment, but an outdoor, because of I think it's been looked at because with the restrictions easing, outdoor ventures can open up first before indoors. So I think some people are looking at what outdoor exercises they can do. It has been looked at what the lease is for the town council. Of course, we don't actually own the land at Cogley Lane. We lease it from the Diocese of Southall, or Southall, sorry. And from that, it's actually come that we can't sublet the land for another purpose. So it's I'm proposing for us to write back to the resident and explain it, but then go and say about the other area, fantastic outdoor spaces that we have as a town council that can offer, and like Butchfield Sports Club and the rugby club as well, with the Win Hill. Town Clerk, you got your hand up.
All I was going to add to that, there seems to be an increasing request to, can I just say my dog has been asleep for the entire meeting and has just woken up as I decide to speak on this piece of correspondence. Yes, clerks are being increasingly approached at parish and town council level for running exercise classes in terms of keep it local. This lady is obviously asked because she lives close by Cogley Lane, but as Councillor Williams has explained, we can't, offer Cogley as a location. So the questions are essentially, in a steer from the committee, would we be amenable to suggesting one of the other town council's open spaces as a potential area? 2, are we not particularly, wanting to do this because there are additional considerations to think about in terms of offering up, green space, just in terms of children playing, size of classes, whether there would be a charge for this, how would we want to proceed if we were inclined? And I just wanted to steer from the committee on this.
Thank you. Councillor Money, got your hand up.
Is it really subletting to allow someone to use a field? They're not going to put any building on it. They're not going to leave anything behind. They're literally going to use it for half an hour to do some exercise, and then they're going to take everything with them. That's like saying somebody going for a picnic is subletting the bit of grass they're sitting on. I think that's a nonsense. I think we should absolutely allow them to use green spaces to do exercise. What else are they for?
I think I've got the kind of from the actual lease about this from when I actually from when I asked the question to be looked at in regards to it, and it's got that the tenant shall not underlet, charge, part with, or share possession or share occupation of this lease or the property, or hold the lease on trust for any person, or grant any right or license owner the property in favour of any third party. And that's in the lease that we have of Cogley Lane. Of course, we don't actually lease all of the area of Cogley Lane. It is more about where the play area is. But of course, there will often be questions of who's granted that kind of activity to happen. So it's just kind of being mindful that we do have other. If it was to become an issue with letting it, negate that we actually own. Councillor Mosswell, you've got your hand up.
Thanks. I suppose just a question to put this in perspective. What would we do if we found out that a boot camp was being run and we hadn't been asked permission? Can I propose very little? I mean, I think we just let it happen. To Councillor Money's point, oh, a town clerk's pulled a face. Okay, but seriously, if we found out that a boot camp was happening, getting people exercise in a time of global pandemic, you can spin it up and ham it up as much as you like, can't you? But what really would we do? Would we find the entity and write to them with cease and desist? I don't know.
Town clerk, did you want to answer that?
Yeah, I think part of the this happens in play parks. People host children's parties and that kind of thing. We know that happens, but it's a case of if this has been run as a business, so that there is a charge to it. Well, therefore, they would need things like public liability. There's also considerations, say, potentially around safeguarding how big the class would be. So that if it's a business concern, I think then, there would need to be a permission in place. And that has been requested. This is what this person's done. I don't think they want to, do it underhand. They're trying to, basically ask permission. And for me, I'm trying to understand what the committee's level of support is. And I think, I get a sense of we're all, very supportive of people exercising outdoors and being as active as they can be. But it's a case of how do we frame this? How do we set this on a path that if others then ask, somebody wants to hold, children's rounders games, how do we want to approach this? And I think that's what I'm looking for, that, the detail can be worked on. It's your initial thoughts around this.
Councillor Leach, you got your hand up.
Thank you. Actually, I agree with Monica. What people need to exercise, people need to get out, people need fresh air. Kids need to be able to run around and do what they want to do within reason and safety. So, was just turned around. Well, we weren't there. We didn't see them do it. Have you got the photographs?
I can fully understand the councillors about exercise, and we're not against the actual principle of it. I think councillors have got to be mindful that this land we don't fully own, and like what's been outlined by the town clerk, that if it's a business that is using it, that is then running and advertising people to go and attend a class, then we kind of got to be mindful on if they're charging fees and that kind of thing. So maybe we need to kind of find more from the person who's wrote to the council about the actual venture and their plans of this boot camp, to find out more. And if needs, we would, if we have to on this land, is kind of as a leaseholder of the land, to make them aware that we've had this come on, because of course you could get, you could get the diocese or be referred to them and ask for part of the fee of using the land on that. But we've got to be mindful, we do have plenty of other locations around the town that we could offer for this purpose, that is fully town council land, and that we wouldn't have this issue. It's just this one location that's been asked about, and I fully agree about people with lockdown, and it's been encouraged by the government for people to get out and get some exercise and to do some exercise, and maybe I've probably been negated that over this whole lockdown for the year. So I need to get out and do that on the recommendations of the government. But it's just that this isn't fully, we are a leaseholder of this land that it's been requested on, and we just got to be mindful. And also we are working with the diocese on Cogley Lane for our own needs to do with the play equipment. So that there is a kind of a scope where people are looking at that location with what we're planning. Councillor Stockwood, you've got your hand up.
Thank you very much. I mean, there is a bookable area, open spaces at Butfield. I remember when the Croquet Club wanted a piece to have an area, they were able to accommodate them at Butfield. On the west side of Bingham, we've got Win Hill, which will take customers. They used to have the Modern Railway Club, and they've looked at the Archery Club in the past. So there are spaces that can be are bookable now that we can direct people to. There's also the top field at the leisure centre. Actually, when I was doing the litter pick during the September clean, there was actually a group of people up there. Whether the leisure centre knew about it or not, I don't know, but there was somebody actually organising a exercise class at the corner of the field while I was litter picking it. So I don't know if that's bookable, but I definitely saw them there. So it happens. And if people want to rock up and do something, then I'm personally following the national instructions to stay home as much as possible. So I'm not going to go out and patrol these areas to work out the solution. I do think, though, I think we just had a debate at Cogley Lane about the potential of people pulling up in cars and causing an issue at that site. And if we were to do something, I just think within terms of our own objectives as an organisation, do we want to be encouraging people to pull up in cars to do exercise there? Because I don't know whether, I mean, I welcome that Bingham residents want to utilise near land near their own, but we don't know that all our customers are local. And if people start pulling up in cars, then we've created the parking problem that we said we're concerned about. If he was just doing it on an ad hoc basis, then I think he gets on with it and stop talking about it. But I think if she wants to have a formal booking, that we direct it towards Butfield, Win Hill, or the top field at the leisure centre, where we've got 3 organisations who provide bookable facilities, which are all have all the arrangements in place to achieve that. So I'm happy to support some way of encouraging her to do facility to provide her classes the exercise facility that she's offering.
Okay. So we've got a recommendation from Councillor Stock is to support the need for with what's being asked, but sadly it isn't at Cogley Lane, but to direct the resident or the person who's written in to organise like Win Hill, Butfield, and the leisure centre where they can book and for the land. And also we've got to remind, as the point that Councillor Stockley has, that they've got car parking as facility as well, should there be anybody who's coming from further afield. Is there any comments on that? I second that to recommend.
I don't need to propose. Sorry, a recommendation on that. I'm happy to go.
Okay, fair enough.
Comments that you've made. So that's perfect.
Yeah, is there anything from the rest of the committee?
Yeah.
So, Councillor Stockwood, you got your hand up?
I mean, if we need some wider direction about this is perhaps an income stream, but I do think that the actual level of income from these sort of projects is going to be very low.
Yeah.
The amount of work that we put into it, they would be better off just going ahead and doing it without us knowing about it on an ad hoc basis. But if it is the sort of direction the the committee wants to go in, then you just ask that we develop some kind of arrangement whereby we allow people. We just have a an instruction that says, you know, this is the sort of thing we allow on our site, and then arrangements can be made to make that happen. We have arrangements in the past for people who wanted to do metal detecting. They could get a license if they wanted. There are people who are storing geo stores, is it? Geo somethings located at various locations on our land where they have that some kind of hobby that involves ordnance survey, or orienteering, it used to be called back in the day, when they go around. But so these sorts of arrangements, if it's happening on a regular basis, or it's then perhaps there's an opportunity there to clarify exactly what we need if somebody wants to do this. But I think if the person wants to set up right now, then they're the best bet is the existing arrangements that exist. Anyway, I'm getting very tired now. Can you tell? Sorry.
Councillor Monaghan, you got your hand up.
As the clerk said, they're getting clerks are getting increasing amounts of requests for this. It's probably mainly because things like village halls at the moment, you're not allowed to do these things in, and you're going to be able to do them in open spaces before you're going to be able to go back to the gym, before you're going to be able to go to the village hall, before you're going to be able to go into the community centre. So we do need to know what our policy is on this, because the clerk is going to get more and more requests for it. And I suggest that we be as flexible as possible, because I doubt that it'll be a forever sort of thing. The village halls will be open again. People will prefer to do plenty of exercises indoors. The gyms will open again. But in the short term, I think we should be open and flexible to the idea of using these spaces and allowing social distancing, exercising, socialisation of people again to happen without having to worry about whether, you know, you're going to have to pay X, Y, or Z to the council, particularly as that amount, as has already been suggested, would be pretty small anyway. I think we should just be open to the idea that, you know, it's actually quite a good thing for our community and for our green spaces to get some use as well. So I think if you were to ask me, yes, we do need to have a way forward, and we need to let the clerk know what that needs to be, because she will get more requests for it, definitely.
So I think with this, that is to initially go back to the resident and say that there are these other locations that immediately can kind of book. But as Councillor Monaghan has said, as a council, we need to have a way forward on this. And of course, this isn't necessarily the policy committee, so something like this might need to be just looked and rubber stamped by Policy and Resources, because of course it's involving assets of the town council. I don't know if we're able to, but I think it's also got to be looked at, like what's been stated, is the benefit of and the income stream against the amount of work that it then takes with the town council on kind of what's then needed to then actually, it could actually then we'll come out with net nothing, and it'll balance each other's out. So is it kind of a fee is just based on the bare cost of what it takes to just process an application? So I think with it's just to find out more of what they're kind of looking to do with this camp, this boot camp, what they're looking to do, if it's just like if there's the fee and that, but to go to refer them and say that there's these other sites that they can go, and then I think for Policy and Resorts to look at this, if there is an increase for the town, because of course even though that there's clerks around are saying about it, but this is the first one that we as a council have received of this nature. So I kind of wouldn't want to go and for something that actually this is the only one that we'll get. So maybe we kind of let them, if it is that they choose to use Witchwood or Orchard as well, is for them that there's a trial period to see how the boot camp takes off and the amount of people that they then get, and if they feel that they can keep running it, and then if it becomes that it is kind of a more permanent fixture, because of course we've got to be mindful of that if they're wanting to do these camps in the winter and that, and want to go indoors once they're open, to then talk about kind of if there's a more permanent location or kind of a more permanent agreement in place between the council and the operator or what of the boot camp, which I think would have to be referred to. I think would it have to be referred to Policy Resources just to get rubber stamped on that because of it being with assets.
Yeah.
So is everybody happy on that? Yeah.
Yes.
Are you, Councillor Much? Sorry, your camera went off on my screen, Councillor Moore. I couldn't quite see you. If you're okay with that, sorry. Yeah. Thank you very much. I can see. Okay. Right. If there's anything on that, that's the last item. Is there anything else? Town clerk, deputy clerk, we haven't got? No.
Nothing more from me.
Right. I got the meeting closed at 20:59.
Great stuff. Thanks very much.
Right. Thank you very much.
Take care all. See you later.
Bye.
Cheers. Thanks.
You
Bye.
can